I'll be presenting my SWOT meal analysis. My meal consists of chips and salsa, chorizo con huevo, refried beans, buñuelos, and a can of Coke. My meal is high in fiber, but is loaded with tons of saturated and trans fat. But we could reduce it by substituting beans for a bowl of fruit, or even a salad. The amount of fat inside the meal could lead to heart disease. The meal does contain other forms of fat, ones healthier than saturated, such as monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. The meal may contain the vitamins that nourishes the body, but there's not as much as you would expect in the meal. The best choice is to substitute most of everything and just have replaced with leafy greens or even fruit. And a threat would be the eggs inside the dish that some people can be allergic to. The meal has all three nutrients such as sugar, starch, and fiber. But one of the sugars of lactose can impact the ones that are lactose intolerant. A choice that someone could make is replace the dairy within the product or in the dessert with, say, soy milk or almond milk, but if allergic to those, we could substitute for water. Since the meal is quite a high in fiber, it could lead to digestive problems and bloating. The fat in the meal does contain the vitamins and nutrients for the body to gain energy, but the meal has more saturated fat than anything else between the other two healthier fatty acids. If wanted to boost the monounsaturated fats, we could add in an avocado to boost it and has less of an impact on the body per se. And since the meal has lots of saturated fat, it could lead to heart disease. Almost everything in the meal contains protein, but since the saturated fat within the meal kind of counteracts the protein's ability to improve the body. The option I can think of to gain more protein is to leave the beans unfried and leave it the way it is. And without the protein, the body will have high levels of cholesterol that could also lead to heart problems. In the Coke, there are traces of electrolytes within the sodium inside. And the caffeine inside the Coke could also replenish fatigue. But the other parts of the Coke, like carbohydrates, sugars, and the caffeine, doesn't contain electrolytes. It does help to think that we can replace the Coke with something with more electrolytes as coconut water or even fruit like oranges and watermelon. And with the decrease in electrolytes could lead to nerve and muscle functions to be less active than usual. The meal has all the essential vitamins to boost the body's immune system, but most of the vitamins are inside the chips and salsa. But what could be changed if we changed the chips and salsa with a salad of leafy greens to gain more vitamins for the same portion? And a shortage of vitamins could lead to mild fatigue and a serious chronic disease. For the meal to have calcium, the beans and eggs within the meal does hold vitamin C, D, and K. Although the the vitamins of C and K is nice. There is a shortage on vitamin D, but it could be replaced with swapping the drink out with orange juice with vitamin D. Since the meal doesn't have much vitamin D, it could lead to osteoporosis. The meal does have vitamin B6 and B12 that can help create blood cells to protect the nervous system. But what could be a problem is the beans, since the beans have the daily amount of iron, it won't be as well. Sorry. The best option to do is to decrease the amount of iron in the other food, such as flour. We could substitute it for non-wheat flour or whole meal flour. And a big output of iron can cause nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. Even with all the saturated fat, the protein within the meal can improve the body as long as the person exercises and loses the weight and uses the protein to use the energy to lose weight. But with all the fat within the food could prevent someone from getting rid of weight if the meal is eaten constantly. You'll gain more weight than you will lose even if you do exercise for an hour a day. But we could fix it by making a complete change within the meal to decrease the fat and rendering the chorizo con huevo from all the fat it contains to a healthier option such as salad or other leafy green dishes. But the meal, the way it is, with the lack of fruit, vegetables, and quite a bit of protein, is not safe for the body to function, which could lead to obesity. The meal is best served for young adults. Since the meal has too much fat for young the younger people and the elderly, it could lead to other forms of young obesity and the elderly having more issues along the way. And kind of the same as before, the best way is to eat healthy from the start so you can contain the fibers and vitamins within the meal of leafy greens to prevent any heart disease or problems in the future. And and when the meal the way it is, if consumed, well, not if, when consumed consistently per day, it could lead what I said before, young child obesity and heart problems. Since the meal does contain the vitamins and proteins, in the meal it could improve one's health well-being. But since the dish barely has any leafy greens, it's best to replace some of the meal with fruits and vegetables. And especially the diet within everything, because it's nice to stick with the diet, but it's best to have a variety, because if you stick with one diet, it can lead to other shortages of vitamins and other proteins, and your blood vessels could be clogged and could have health problems within the future.